Hi, this is Deb from Deb's Days. It's Tutorial Tuesday, and today we're going to make a holder for some colored pencils. Along with your regular sewing supplies, for this project you will need a main fabric measuring 11 inches by 18 inches. I'm using a heavier weight fabric. It's more like a canvas type material. A lining fabric measuring 11 inches by 18 inches. A piece of fusible fleece measuring 10.5 inches by 17.5 inches. A piece of elastic measuring 27 inches long. I'm using the 1-inch wide elastic. A hair tie or a piece of elastic for the loop. And a button. Make sure it's a button with a shank on it. Place your lining fabric with the right side facing down, wrong side facing up. Grab your fusible fleece piece and center it in the middle of your fabric. Follow the directions on your packaging to iron it onto the fabric. Make sure it's secure before we move on to the next step. Flip your fabric over. Measure up 5.5 inches from the bottom. Mark the edge. I'm just using a regular pencil for this project because my fabric is darker and I'll be stitching over it. If you're working with a lighter fabric, you may want to make another choice for a marking tool. Do the same with the other side, 5.5 inches up from the bottom, and mark it. Now lightly draw a straight line to connect those two markings. This line is going to be important for our elastic placement. But first we need to add some additional markings on that line. We'll be making a little mark every 1/2 inch along the line. While the markings don't have to be exactly a 1/2 inch, they should be pretty darn close. Make those 1/2 inch marks all the way across until you get to the end of the fabric. Go ahead and set that lining piece aside. Now grab your elastic. It's time for us to mark the elastic now. On the elastic, we're using a different measurement. This time it's going to be 3/4 of an inch. All the way across your piece of elastic, mark a little mark at every 3/4 inch spot. Again, while the markings don't have to be exact, they should be kind of close. Make those 3/4 inch marks all the way across until you get to the end of the elastic. Now it's time to match up the fabric markings and the elastic markings. First, place your elastic against that line. If you notice the markings don't match up, at least not yet, we're going to make them match up one at a time. Starting on the right side of your fabric, place your elastic so one of the elastic markings and one of the fabric markings match up. Stitch the elastic down at that spot. Be sure to back tack at the beginning and ending of the stitching to secure it. Slide your elastic over to match up its marking with the next fabric marking. Again, stitch it down. I'm not doing any clipping of the threads yet. I found it just much faster to sew all the elastic down first. Now go ahead and slide the elastic over again, match it up, and stitch it. And don't forget, do the back stitching at the beginning and end each time you sew one of those loops. We need it secure. Continue to sew the elastic all across the fabric until you get to the end of both the elastic and the fabric. You may find you have a little bit of elastic left over. If so, just cut it off. Then clip your threads from the fabric. On the back side of the fabric, I decided to leave all my extra threads. I figured it would make it a bit more stable by just leaving them in place. Take your elastic loop and place it up against the top edge of the elastic with the loop facing in. I found that cutting the loop and then putting the raw edges of that loop up against the raw edges of the fabric made it easier to sew. Go ahead and stitch it down to secure it in place. Now take your main fabric and place it right side facing down on top of your lining piece. Make sure it's centered. Pin or clip the layers in place. We'll stitch all around the fabric using 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure you leave a space at the bottom for turning though. When you come to the sections where the elastic is attached to the sides, you'll find that your fabric is pulling back from the edge. It's the loops that are causing that to happen. When you get to that area, go ahead and pull that main fabric over. Make sure those edges match up before you stitch that area. When the entire piece, other than that bottom opening, has been stitched together, go ahead and clip your corners. Turn the piece right side out. We now need to deal with the spot we left for turning. Fold those edges under 1/2 inch and press them. While you're at it, go ahead and press the entire piece. Top stitch all around the entire piece, making sure to catch that opening. You can top stitch from the lining fabric side or the main fabric side. It's personal preference. Place the fabric with the elastic loops facing you, and the loop for securing is over on the right. We now need to make the bottom pocket. Fold the bottom of the fabric up 1.5 inches. If you prefer to do 2, you can do that as well. Pin it or clip it into place and stitch it down right over your previous top stitching. Just make sure you back tack on that stitching. And do the same with the other side. 1.5 inches up, or 2 if you choose. Pin or clip it, sew it to secure it down. Our pocket looks a-okay, right? Well, not exactly. When you see it from the side, you'll see there's a big gap in the middle. We need to secure that down. So find the midpoint of the pocket and stitch it down. Now grab your colored pencils. We need the pencils in place to help us determine our button placement. So go ahead and get all your pencils into those elastic loops. Depending on your number of pencils, you'll either have extra loops or need to make another holder, as I had to do for my daughter. When your holder is filled, go ahead and roll it up. Pull the elastic piece over the roll so it's not too tight or not too loose. Mark that spot. You'll hand sew that button into place. And now you have a holder for colored pencils. My daughter reports it even works for her large collection of gel pens. If you'd like to see more sewing and craft projects like this one, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And stop by the blog at debsdays.com. You'll find free patterns, supply lists, and links to more sewing and crafting videos. See you next week with another project.